All right, we just had a bunch of clips and we watched them and it was a good time of just like goofy Star Citizen stuff, right? But now it's time to get serious. 10pound42 3 days ago posted server meshing progress. I would just say a lot of people's experiences were up and down maybe or inconsistent in the server meshing test, but 10pound42 is usually fairly balanced outside of his 4.0's coming, but even in that video he was very balanced. So let's check this out, and let me link you guys the video now. He's only 500 subs away from 10,000, so let's try to help him get there. Actually 400 subs.
CIG has tested server meshing again. Is Star Citizen's most anticipated tech making progress? The new RMQ system has been put through its paces with shard sizes up to 1,000 players. Now, we're
going did anybody get in?
to go through the good, because there are some things that have improved since last test, and also the bad, because there are plenty of train-related injuries. And at the end, let's just sew it all up and predict what all this means for 4.0. So to start with, CIG started testing with 100 player shards just to get a baseline of how the RMQ system would work. So if you're not up to date, RMQ is a new messaging system for network stuff that CIG have been working on basically since the spring.
6 months-ish, right? About 6 months?
June-ish, when they realised that their current messaging system, the NMQ system, just wasn't really up to scratch. We were seeing massive interaction delays when we tested larger servers last time. So I didn't bother with the 100 player shards. There's not really much footage to show you from that. It kind of just worked as you'd expect it would. But we then got into some 500 player shards. So you can see here, I managed to join a server with 441 players on. It then filled up to 500. Lots of people testing, which was a good thing. This was obviously open to everybody. We had plenty of players, but you can see here.
How long did you wait to get into this server? Now that was a noticeable, not noticeable. That was a known issue listed on there, that there would be really long load times, and there were.
Yeah, I've pressed to get out of my bed, and when previously we tested this with large numbers in the past, you would not get out of bed that quickly. So there definitely is a interaction delay, but at this stage and with this many players, it's kind of under control. And
okay, I'm gonna let him cook here. It's a 10-minute video, but I got something to say about that.
I mean, this isn't probably good enough to be in a live release, but it's much better than before. And I think this was one of the goals of this test, to see how this sort of thing worked, how interaction delay had improved with this new messaging system, and it seems as though things are looking better.
False. And even Benoit admitted that they were not better. Something else was causing them, and RMQ did not improve them. And what happened was when you got into the server, yes, they were a little bit quicker if you got in on the launch of a server. So what 10pound42 was probably doing is taking a look at testing chat and trying to be in quickly, like one of the first people in. If you were one of the first people in and you were not banging your head against the wall like 5 to 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds late, or a minute or something like that, late to get in a server, you were dealing with incredibly high loading times. And what I noticed is gradually over time, and within not days or hours, we're talking about 5 to 10 minutes. Once you hit the 5 or 10 minute mark, the interaction delays ramped up, and we're in the minutes of time that you were waiting. I would not call this an improvement.
I mean, it's still obviously not perfect. We're still waiting here for this elevator, but, you know, we'll give them credit.
Well, you're waiting for the elevator, but yours says elevator called. So mine would never even get to the point where it would say it was called, and sometimes it would show up.
Things are better than they were. But you may have noticed there's no actual players anywhere. Oh, no, there are the players. So one of the big problems, you can't see anybody else's movement.
DC was insane.
Whether the server, just again, whether it's the RMQ system, you're not getting updates for other players' movements. So they're just all standing still. And that was kind of one of the big takeaways of this test is that we're not quite ready yet. Now, the trains were also another takeaway of this. I'm in Lawville here, as I always love to be, and
the trains are absolutely no surprise at all with the lack of the transit system rework.
Trains were absolutely deadly, and I saw a lot of people having this problem across different locations in the game. But again, we're having players pop into existence where finally their movements have been updated and we've got their correct position. But we had a lot of this where things would open. This actually was a crash to desktop, and then loaded back in exactly the same position, which is good, so that's a good sign. But there was a lot of time spent on trains, struggling to get off trains. Here's another example. This train has arrived. I'm about to get on. I barged my way through, thinking that that's a good idea.
No.
Turns out that wasn't such a good idea. The train disappears, I'm on the tracks, and I'm left with no choice but to backspace. I wake up in hospital. I thought, well, let's see how the delay is on our item banks, this storage stuff. So
my assumption now is that the item or the interaction delay has now ramped up into the minutes.
Again, I've pressed on the screen, used F there, and there's definitely a delay, but it's not crazy. And actually, once it loads,
what? Mine was literally minutes long.
Properly, had to do it a couple of times.
Is this a client-based issue and not a server-based? Like,
the actual functionality of being able to drag and drop stuff onto your character kind of works better than you'd expect. Again, in the past, with these sorts of tests, even on live, you sometimes have massive delay.
His experience is entirely different than mine, so yeah, maybe it is a skill issue.
For these, and whatever work CIG has been doing in terms of the services, different hybrid stuff that they've got running, the stuff that is running this in the background, this particular part is working pretty well.
Like, I have to say, I am absolutely flabbergasted, like to the point where like this video almost looks edited to me compared to what I experienced.
Then I managed to finally get to a terminal, request my cutter scout. Again, you can see the delay here. I've clicked here, request delivery. You hear that little noise, and there's definitely a bit of a delay, but it's not crazy. And remember, this is 500 players on 3 dedicated game servers, so this is by far
his delays. If I experienced what he experienced, I would be saying there was a tangible improvement from the previous tests. If I experienced what he experienced, I would say that there's a tangible improvement. Maybe what was happening is I was getting on servers that were maybe a different configuration of some kind, perhaps, right? And his were a certain configuration, and those went pretty well. And mine was was a little bit different, and my experiences were just not as good. Mine were consistently bad, which sucks, because I'm gonna be honest, I really, really wanted to say something good. I really wanted to be like, hey, there's a real win here, and
the most successful test of this scale that we've seen so far. Although, as you can see, things are not actually all working that well.
Yeah.
So it's another.
That's something that never happened to me, though. But I am glad that some people were able to see progress. So it's there somewhere, but if it's inconsistent, is it really there? Hard to say. Hopefully that, like what I just mentioned, is what was happening. He's on a different configuration than I am. They're doing A/B tests, and I was the B, he was the A, and his worked out really well, and mine didn't. So that we can like chalk it up to that and hope that that's what happened to me. But visually seeing that he had a better experience than me puts me a little bit more at ease about the future. But yeah, it was tough on me. Really bad.
A death there. I fell through the elevator. Again, a bit more train action for you here. Still, again, 500 players, 3 dedicated game servers waiting for the train. Oh, well, this train has decided to murder me. So it's just...
Yeah, someone in chat says from watching around, you definitely had the worst experience because people were chat hopping. Like, Ali was streaming, Burks was streaming. Every fucking Star Citizen streamer was streaming at that point, right? Trying to be like, oh, you know, people might watch this shit. And yeah, apparently I had the worst experience. So it is what it is. I was the one who didn't want to have that. Like, I did not want to sit here and be like, damn, this sucks. You know, I wanted to experience the opposite. I was so hopeful for this test. I was so hopeful for it.
Yeah. taking me out. And you'll notice that you're not actually dying when you fall through here, which again is another sign of interaction delay. And that caught up to me, I think. I was getting my ship, and then that previous death caught up to my player. So
yep, that happened to me in the old test as well. So a lot of the same experiences. And he's being really balanced. So good on 10 pound 42.
Yeah, plenty of problems, but I did manage to make some progress eventually. A lot of the problems here are that everybody's starting in the same place, and there's just a lot of things going on at once.
Did he
So
get a
many
queue?
requests it must be on the network and to the server. My ships here are not in my hangar, they're somewhere else. I eventually managed to get out an Aurora, and we got in space, and here we can see another big
I never got into space in the 500 player test.
improvement based or compared to the last test. Watch the authority identifier. We are about to switch, see a bit of a stutter here, and we switch server. The big change from last time is that we're not being pulled out of quantum travel, and so that's...
Now, when I switched, well, I was in the 350 player test, so he'll get to that. I didn't have any hiccups.
It's a big change, and then again, as we kind of move towards a live version of this is the sort of, they're the little bits that actually CID have to get working, because it just didn't work before to keep dropping out of quantum travel every time you switched server.
And I wasn't able to see it until the 350 player test, but that was my one positive takeaway from, and I really wanted to find a silver lining or something good that you could say about the test, because I really want things to work. I really want things to be successful, and I wanted to have a moment of feeling good in a day where I was feeling pretty bad, because like some of you said, I had a really, really bad problem. Like I had a hard time playing. And I eventually jumped, and I crossed the server boundary, and I didn't get kicked out of quantum, and it just worked, and it was like actually seamless. Like I didn't realize that I crossed the server line. And I was like, that's something I can point to as progress. There we go. It is way smaller progress than I was hoping for, but there was some progress, right?
Now CIG moved onto 1,000 player servers. So 6 DGSs, 1,000 players.
Show.
But you see here, lots of 30Ks. Very difficult. And I'm going into a slightly smaller one here with 323 players at the start, and they again will have filled up, but I managed to actually get in. So this is pretty momentous. 1,000 players coming onto this server, and it's still...
Here's what I'm gonna say, and I think it was Waka was saying it in testing chat. There's 998 players on server 40, and I'm thinking, brother, I'm trying to get in server 40, and I'm on the fucking menu, on the loading screen. How many people are actually in the server playing? How many people are moving around? How many people are doing physics? How many people are opening doors? How many people are clicking buttons? And how many people are just sitting on the loading screen? I don't think that was actually I don't think they had that many players actually in and playing, because everybody was stuck on the loading screen. I think a few people got in, but not 1,000. So I don't know how genuine that test was. Even the 500 player server, lots of people stuck on loading screens. How many of the 500 were actually playing? It's hard to say.
There's more servers here, obviously, compared to the 3 DGS 500 player setup that we had before, but we've still got fairly decent interaction delay, as you might expect. A lot of players, a lot of network traffic, I suppose, is what's going on here. But eventually, the character does respond, and
yes, so much faster than me.
I thought about going to the item. I thought, no, let's try and get to the ships if we can on the 1,000 player server. You can see that again. The doors, the delay isn't crazy. There's a bit of weirdness going on.
Because he's in at the very beginning.
Considering it's 1,000 players, the interaction.
I'm going to be honest. I could not get out of this door on any test. Maybe the 350. I think I got out on the 350. The 500 or 1,000, I don't think I ever... So just 500. I was never able to get through this door. I had to backspace, go to the hospital. And that was my best chance of getting out.
Delay, which I think is probably the main purpose of this test, to try and see if RMQ has solved the interaction delay. That seems to be much better. But unfortunately, another 30K. CID...
Again, Benoit said RMQ did not solve interaction delay on testing chat. Probably after he posted this video.
Then decided that dropping the numbers would probably be a good idea. Next up, I'm on a 750 player server. Again, I believe this is still 6 DGSs. They've just reduced the actual number. So the interaction delay getting up from bed isn't
10?
so
I
bad.
think I was on this one at one point.
And you can see that, again, there is some delay here when opening the door. But again, compared to what we've seen in the past, I mean, in the big test that we had before a while back, I saw 30 minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna remove my camera for a second. He showed about a 5 to 10 second delay, but look at Thunder TRP, his chat. His says 30 to 40 second interaction delay. So everyone's experiencing things a little bit different. Just something to point out.
So this thing, whatever they've done, the RMQ stuff has definitely improved things. Eventually we get up to the terminals again, no movement, so I just go straight to my hanger. And I thought, if you listen here to the noise of the drawer opening and closing, you can see stuff is happening on the client side, but the delay here is quite large, and it's probably significantly and noticeably worse than the 500 player one at this stage.
Yeah.
But we do eventually get into the item bank and you can access your stuff. I then 30k'd. Eventually I get back into my hangar and the Cutter Scout, it should be coming up. It's not, but then it suddenly pops up, but it's not there. But then it is there, and then I've phased inside of it somehow. So that's fun. And then another 30k. Now, by this point, it was time for me to go to bed, but CIG were not finished yet. They then reduced the size down. So we got 350 player configurations with 4 dedicated game servers. Now,
this one went as well as it could go for me.
I watched some people streaming this. It was fairly successful. Still issues and still crashes and 30Ks, but things looked better, as you'd expect. Much less traffic for the network, I think, to deal with, and the services to deal with. We got this message in SC testing.
And £10.42, if you ever need footage from my streams or anything like that, like if you're unable to have tested and you want some footage to show people, just reach out. There, you can have any of it.
From Benoit, and he says the test is overall about RMQ, which for now is a big success, even though it doesn't feel like it for players at the moment. He actually followed this up in a message in Evo chat, which I think I'm okay to share. He said it actually performs much better. We talk about RMQ here. We just find new issues that deliver the same symptom as if it wasn't performing. So from their side of things, RMQ is much better. They're the words he's using. Some people were getting a bit upset in the chat about, oh, if this is how it is, how is it ever going to be ready for 4.0? I think the real question is, and I've said this in the past, are they going to try and push it this far for 4.0? Are they going to try and get 500 players or 1,000 players? I was doing a lot of this testing with Captain Tombstone, thank you, it was very fun to hang out, and we were talking about this, and I think the likelihood that they're going to just shove everybody into massive shards with lots of players for 4.0 is so small.
I agree, but 4.0 has to be a milestone moment, I think, for some people. I am not one of those people. A milestone in terms of the game needs to be totally changed in that, not just a background change. I think some people need that. I am not one of those people. I think 4.0 needs to be functional, stable, proof of concept, stabilized, right? So start at 350 and move up slowly as you gather data and as you learn, right? And I think people need 4.0 to be this like epic thing where the whole game is just like done for them somehow, because CIG has set this expectation, unfortunately for themselves for many years, of just kind of touting 4.0 as kind of Jesus-y. And the community does it to themselves, gaslighting themselves and all this stuff. I am 100% with 10 Pound here that I don't think it needs to be, should be, or anything. It needs to be brought in. It needs to be optimized, and then it needs to be brought up. They need to stabilize things. They need to not constantly be throwing band-aids on stuff. They need to fix the underlying cause of a lot of the issues that they have. Example, transit system. We saw tons of problems with trains in this video because they didn't fix the underlying problem with them before this test. You're still dealing with dog shit transit system in a server meshed environment. So it's going to just show how bad trains actually are significantly more, right? So that's it. Don't set yourself up for disaster on this one. 4.0 is going to be trash. And if they go, and I think this is where he's going with this, if they go around 350, 400 players and 4 servers like they did in the 350 player test, guess how many players that is per server? It's 90 to 100 players per server, which is exactly what we're experiencing now, which means you're going to experience the same dead crickets, fucking dust balls rolling across the street game that you've been dealing with forever. And that's what 4.0 is probably going to be. That's my expectations for 4.0. Dead, same shit gameplay, same shit game, but hopefully a somewhat stable tech experience on the server meshing side, because it is huge in terms of the back end. Like, holy crap, we have upped the player count by 3 or 4 times. You might not see all those players, but your server performance is a little bit better. The game is a little bit more stable, maybe less crashes and things like that. Maybe not initially, but yeah, that kind of thing. AI might be a little bit more performant. Like, you just want to be able to see some tangible progress on the tech side and then watch that grow and get a little bit better, right? I think people are setting the expectations way up here for 4.0, and you're just setting yourself up for
I've
failure.
said in the past, it was a while ago now, but it's still potentially going to be true, is that are they going to just do 100 players in Stanton and 100 players in Pyro? That's by far the safest way for them to get 4.0 out the door in terms.
I think they got to do the around the numbers that they did in the last test. I think if we know there'll be more tests leading up to 4.0's release, or we hope at least. We thought there would be a lot more tests leading up to this test. So hopefully there's more. And what I hope happens is that we see tangible progress from the last test that we just did, right? All right. How stable can you get that 350 player server? How long can you keep it going, right? 350 cap needs a mission refactor. And yeah, it needs the transit refactor, mission refactor, and ATC refactor, right? Everything that's affected by server meshing, it needs all of that. But in general, if they can just get the us running around and physics happening being okay, then I'm okay with it.
Of the server meshing stuff.
Yeah, one player in a server needs a mission refactor, let's be honest.
This test, I think, is more about where can this technology go? How well have they done with RMQ? Will it allow them to push in the future to up to 1,000 players? Based on this test, I guess there's going to be more tests to see if that's true. But I don't think, still, we should be expecting huge numbers for 4.0. That's my personal prediction. I think
it's the correct one.
There's a chance we maybe get 200 or 300 for Stanton and 300 for Pyro, but again,
no. I think when I'm saying my numbers, I think 300 to 350, maybe 400 total.
And based on these tests,
total.
If I was CIG, which I'm obviously not, and I wanted to get 4.0 out the door in any sort of reasonable time frame, I think we're looking at 100 in each. But let me know what you think. I think this is a good test. I think there's some good.
Here's what I think. If it's 100 per server or per location, like Pyro and Stanton, that's a complete failure. If that's what you're calling 4.0, you have unequivocally failed to deliver server meshing to the players. And you've unequivocally failed to deliver on the expectations you set for your players. But if you go, and it's such a crazy thing, because if you go to 300 or higher, it's such a fine line. In my opinion, they have unequivocally won and succeeded at delivering it. And I know it's such a small number in comparison, like difference, but it just means that they did more than 100 players here and 100 players there, right? That's the difference in my mind, is that if if they show a tangible increase in players, it shows that server meshing can perform better than what we had. So that's like, for me, 200 players would be a failure. But he's probably right. Because what does CIG care about? They care about optics. They don't care about delivering the game. They don't care. Well, they do. I'm sure they do. Someone does, at least. I don't know how many people do, or if the people that do are in charge or not. But there's a lot of stuff is about optics with CIG. Oh, don't say it that way because then the community will say this, and don't do this because then they'll do that. And it's, you know, if you're just open and you're like, Benoit comes on SCL and just fucking tells it like it is, and that's it. And even Benoit was like, RMQ is going to fix the interactions delays, and it did not for me. It seems like it did for him. So maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I was doing something wrong. I don't know. But yeah, 200 players would be a failure for me. That's all I'm going to say.
Good stuff happening. Improvements, obviously very buggy, but that's kind of what you expect from this thing. What do you think?
I think I got my fingers crossed, and that's it. That's all I could do. All I could do is cross my fingers and hope. And I am still slightly hopeful if in the next test we see a tangible improvement on the last one. Start out again with 100 players and then go up to 350 and see how that goes and see if it's better than what we had before. And you know what? Keep the test up for 24 hours. Keep the test up for a weekend. Then start talking to me. They kept that test up for an hour at a time. They did each test a couple hours at a time at max with a lot of downtime in between. That is not complete data for the player to make a prediction about 4.0 or how good the test went on the player side. It's plenty for them, but it's not enough for us. So they keep that up, and then we're in good shape.